Right.
But even within those 3 months, there is a specific provision that says, during that time, if an emergency of such a nature that requires a convening of parliament arises, then the president can convene parliament. So we have a specific provision for unforeseen emergencies like this. It says unforeseen emergency.
Right.
So parliament can come into being under that provision and vote funds properly to be utilized even to fight COVID-19, amongst other things.
Have you considered a situation or a scenario where all members of Parliament will band together in an effort to not have elections and so on? Because obviously, although that's a constitutional right of the people to exercise their mandate, the bigger picture really is the basic human right, which is a right to life. And therefore, would members of the Parliament consider a situation where they give an undertaking to the people of the country that the President has your blessings to carry on for X amount of months or until we have a resolution, whichever way it is, to control COVID-19?
Well, we are working on such an undertaking. I hope we will all be able to sign it and give it to the country as well as to the government. An undertaking by members who sit in the opposition to say, we don't want our salaries in Parliament. We will not try to oust the government, right? We will put our shoulder to the wheel, as it were, and help the government get the necessary funds, enact laws to deal with this situation, and anything else that the Parliament is specifically authorized and empowered to do, we will do it as one country, not as opposition or government. That we will join with the government and face this. I think I have spoken to all the parties and formations that sit in the opposition. All are willing to do that, and I hope in the next few days we'll be able to specifically make that offer to the government and to the country at large.
Excellent. Thank you. That's absolutely sensational news. On that note, we've got to have to take a short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline Live. We'll see you on the other side of the break. And welcome back to Newsline Live. We're in conversation with Mr. M.A. Sumandran. Mr. Sumandran, that's an absolutely sensational offer. And when do you think this will gain some traction, the offer, this undertaking to the people?
I think over this weekend, certainly by Monday, we should be able to make that public, and we have already said it in different ways. But I think it needs to be focused, and one message needs to be given out. So I have done a draft for all the party leaders to consider, and once we agree on that, we'll make it to the country.
Now, that's absolutely wonderful offer. It stops short of an affidavit, but what greater affidavit than a very public undertaking to members to the public, especially on the cusp of an election.
True.
Now, whilst we have said what we have, and you've explained the importance of Parliament, why is it that? Why do you think that this government, the government of the day, wants to go for elections in between these very serious and challenging times? The COVID-19 figures are continuously on the increase. There doesn't appear to be any, we don't know where the peak is, we don't know where the plateau is going to be, and certainly we don't know when it's going to come down.
Surveys apparently show a high degree of approval for the way the government has handled this. And I must also say that from the time they started dealing with the issue, they have been quite effective in controlling it in relation to, in comparison to other countries and so on. But we are yet to see the worst of it, I think. But nevertheless, for the moment, it's quite satisfactory. And so the government perhaps thinks that they can ride on that wave of popularity and obtain the two-thirds majority
Right.
that they were looking for.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely dangerous exercise, putting the country to that kind of risk of a breakout if you start electioneering at a time like this.
What is the effect, the practical effect of postponing the election?
The practical effect of postponing the election is that, as I said, there is a very strict time frame, time limitation, 3 months that the country can be without a parliament. So if the election cannot be held,
Yeah.
and it cannot be held, and it's going to be postponed, Election Commission says even 20th of June is only a provisional date, we'll reconsider, and they will be forced to postpone it further.
Yeah.
Then the parliament that was already there must be brought back into to becoming active again. There is no two words about that, because you can't fight this with, as I said, one of the three arms of government in a frozen state.
Right. We're getting some questions in. Thank you very much. 0772 300 305. We were saying that actually the government ought to have gone into a proper lockdown before or without going for nominations, in fact.
That is precisely the point that I have been making at a number of places these days. You see, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa raised this matter in Parliament on the 24th of January, then again on the 5th of February, which shows that well before 1 month
Yeah.
of the dissolution on the 2nd of March,
Yeah.
we knew what was coming.
Right.
If government had taken action at that time and closed airports and gone into a lockdown situation, with Parliament also passing necessary legislation for that, we would have been in a much better place than we are now. But because of this preoccupation to somehow hold the election and get a majority, they put the country at grave risk, kept it open until the nominations closed on the 19th.
Yeah.
And very next day, countrywide curfew slammed down, which has now gone on for longer than a month.
Yeah.
So, I'm fully in agreement with that viewer's question. We missed controlling this much earlier, and that also was because the government wanted to gain political advantage and get their majority in Parliament, and they are showing that preoccupation yet again in somehow trying to hold these elections and ride on a wave of popularity.
Or that they really didn't have enough data to understand the...
Well, if they didn't have enough data at the time the dissolution happened, very soon thereafter they had. Within 10 days, the WHO declared it a pandemic.
Right.
President could have immediately withdrawn the Gazette dissolving Parliament.
Right. People say, very quickly as we come towards the end, people say are drawing a parallel with South Korea. What do you say to that?
Well, we have all looked at how South Korea conducted the election.
Really?
About 27% voted online, and even people infected with COVID-19 voted in special booths.
Yeah.
And every other voter was given a personal protective equipment. They took pencils from home. They were given gloves, masks, whole works.
Indeed.
Enormous amount of money was spent. South Korea could afford to do it. We just can't do that.
I want to ask you to explain the nuances of this thing. What happens when, if they postpone it, the nominations will get sort of cancelled out? What are the nuances of that? What are the implications of the nominations being cancelled?
Well, a lot of people ask me this question. I'm of course not concerned about that at all. I think what ought to concern us is the fact that we cannot have an election at this point in time. But since you asked this question,
Yes.
If the president withdraws his gazette,
Yeah.
dissolving parliament, then everything done under that gets cancelled. And then whenever we go to elections, it will be fresh nominations. So that perhaps is also a concern of the government, because as it is, nominations have been filed.
Yeah.
The United National Party, the main opposition party, has split into two, and there are two factions contesting the elections.
Right.
So the government perhaps thinks that this is the opportune moment to go for elections while the opposition is divided. But all of this should not be considerations that they have when we are confronted with this enormous challenge of fighting this virus.
Mr. Sumandan, very quickly, is the central bank printing money valid in law? Does it amount to drawing on the consolidated fund?
It does. These are serious concerns that we have, that even the debt ceiling is being breached, money is being printed. All of that is happening without the sanction of Parliament, without the basic safeguard that is written fundamentally into our law. But if you raise it, there is accusation that we are somehow disrupting the government's fight against COVID. No, that's not what we are doing. We are only saying there are ways of doing this properly, there are ways of doing this legally, and we are agreed in helping you to do that together as one country. This is a national issue. See, there is no political party in this. This has to be faced without political affiliations, all together as one country. Indeed, not just even one country, globally.
Indeed.
You see,
It's
there must be one focus to get rid of this virus from this world.
Newsline can't get away from this, from politics. So I'm going to have to ask you this question because it's coming from a viewer. For the upcoming election, are you, your party, going to collaborate with the United National Party or with the other one?
We have never collaborated with anyone except in 2015 to bring about a regime change, to bring two main parties together.
Yeah.
So that we could address the serious national issues. We collaborated to some extent. Still we sat in the opposition, and we took forward a particular program. Unfortunately, that couldn't be
But on several
completed.
occasions, your party has come to the rescue, if you like, of Mr. Wickremesinghe.
That is so. That is because of what we did in 2015. We had to keep that going until the mandate ran out. We will be independent, and we will be willing to lend our hand or our support to anyone, any party. It's not United National Party or SJB or even SLPP. We will be willing to lend our hand to anyone willing to resolve all outstanding national issues of this country.
The multi-billion rupee question is this. Mr. Sumandan, do you plan to go to court in this regard?
Well, if it comes to that, if the President does not act and activate the Parliament, if the Speaker doesn't convene Parliament, he has said today that he is not willing to do that, then the last option, the last bastion.
The last bastion of hope.
Hope is the judiciary, and judiciary has always delivered on occasions like this. They did do that in 2018 October as well. Well, if it comes to that, yes, we will go to court.
Mr. Sumandan, thank you very much for taking the time to come on to Newsline Live. We appreciate your comments. We wish you well in your pursuit to serve the people of our country.
Thank you very much.
And that's the way it was on Newsline Live. Take care, and thank you to everybody who made this program possible tonight, despite the very challenging circumstances, especially our production and engineering team. They did an absolutely marvelous job. Thank you, and thank you to you, the people, for watching this program. Take care, good night, and sleep tight, and also, God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukut Ali.